You know, the very, very first war event ever was right here on these courts. Not everyone remembers it, but in 2004, Marty Hogan was part of that, and I got the very great pleasure of seeing him for the first time, playing against him for the first time. Yeah, you won the match. It's okay. You won when we played. But since then, Marty is part of why World Outdoor Racquetball in South Florida is what it is. Without Marty having come down and Cliff having come down, we wouldn't have got the national notoriety. We would still be small potatoes. Having Marty here early on in the tournaments along the cliff led the way for everybody else to come. It led the way for us to get sponsors. It led the way. We in South Florida Racquetball owe a lot to Marty. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce, well, Marty, come on up here. I'm going to get a photo, and then we're going to introduce Jerry Price.
He, in the 70s and 80s, he won 11 pro national championship tournaments and was named Player of the Year in unmatched 8 times. On the outdoor side, Marty has also 10 major outdoor national and world championship tournament wins, including the outdoor national singles, 8 outdoor world doubles, and outdoor U.S. Open double championships. Marty also has 2 of the most popular racquetball videos of all time. Power Racquetball for the indoor game, and then also another video, The Secrets of the Power Racquetball for the outdoor game. Today, Marty is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, Outdoor Hall of Fame. And he will be just one of 3 players that have been inducted into the Indoor Hall of Fame and Outdoor Hall of Fame. And he shares that great honor with Charlie Brumfield and Bud Muehlheisen. I just want to say to my friend, congratulations. Nobody deserves it more.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry.
Get a picture of Marty in this thing and get a picture of me in this thing. Okay.
I'd like to, first of all, thank Jerry coming all the way from San Francisco, first of all, to do this. Jerry has just been one of my favorite people in the history of my career. No better gentleman, no greater guy. Cliff Swain said it yesterday to me, pulled me aside. Jerry is 10 times nicer than you and I. And it is the certifiable truth. Another thing too, another milestone yesterday was Cliff's birthday at 50. 50 years old. Now, you know what, it's, you know, we talked about some people passing away and stuff. But when I first got involved in the game, I was so young. You know, death and whatever that wasn't the situation. I was the youngest person. Cliff and I, we were talking today, over the weekend, that it has been 35 years since the first time I played him in a competition. 35 years. He was 17, I was, 20. Well, 22. But it's amazing. And then Corey Breisman and then Jerry Price, who's from the original group. I started playing racquetball when I was 8, and I'm 58 now. So it seems like yesterday that that we all started playing. But here we are now together again. It goes to show you the power of the sport. 35 years later, we're still here. And boy, you've all seen Cliff play, so we can still play pretty good. Second, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee. And I want to state this. The Hall of Fame committee and picking people in the Hall of Fame have a big responsibility. Very big. That they should really take a lot of time and a lot of effort to really make this Hall of Fame a true Hall of Fame. The one thing that the Indoor Hall of Fame has done over the years that I thought has been bad, it's gone from the Hall of Fame to the Hall of the Very Average. In order to get into the Hall of Fame, not only do you have to have one particular aspect of being a great player and winning in titles, but there's also other aspects of Hall of Fame, and that's contributing, coming back to the game, supporting it. Because, Vic, you said something. You said, oh, I owe outdoor racquetball for coming out. And that's not the case. I owe racquetball everything. And it's been my pleasure to come and play outdoor. So don't feel like outdoor racquetball or racquetball owes me anything, because Lord knows I've benefited is a whole lot in racquetball. There's two sides of my career. One was the indoor. A lot of you probably know. I mean, I started playing when I was 8. Racquetball's enabled me to travel all over the world, all over the country, playing racquetball and seeing the country. It's also allowed me recognition. I know a lot of you remember when I was in the ABC Superstars competition on TV, which was a tremendous experience, incredible, competing against other athletes and whatever, and it was a great experience. And then there was the World Rackets Championship that I competed on in CBS, in which I competed against McEnroe and Vilas and a number of the other great pros, Sharif Khan and squash, in a competition, and it was great. And it benefited me, but it also benefited racquetball hugely. We got on the map as being really sort of like, hey, legitimate athletes that can compete with other athletes, which is something I'm very proud of. I also extremely benefited by my notoriety about a lot of celebrities that wanted to play with me. So over the years, I got to play with people such as the comedian John Candy, Johnny Carson, Heather Locklear wanted to play with me.
You got an extra lesson, I'm sure.
And I swear this is, I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't want nobody to repeat it. I swear this is the truth. I asked her out on a date when she was there to give me an award. She said yes. We made a date for the following Saturday. She lived in LA. I lived in San Diego. I was a no-show. What a mistake! Huge! But anyways, and another one of my highlights that a lot of people get a kick out of is that I got to play racquetball and teach racquetball to Elvis Presley a couple of different times, which was a huge thing. Elvis went from being really involved in martial arts to falling in love with racquetball, to where he built a court in Graceland that is still there today. So if you do go to Memphis, you have to go to Graceland. I don't care if you want to see Elvis, but you've got to go see the court, because he had a court built right there on Graceland, and no telling what could have happened to the sport. He really loved the sport and wanted big things for the sport had he not passed away. There's 3 events that I wish you all could have been to. One was the '69 Nationals in St. Louis, where I was 11 years old, where all the best racquetball players in the world came together, and nobody knew who the best player was or who was going to win. The other event was the '74 Outdoor Nationals out in California, Orange County, to where it was the first time all the indoor pros came together with the outdoor pros. And it's funny that, here today, Rocky Carson is sitting over there, and I remember his father and his uncle being like the best team in '74. And you want to know how Rocky Carson's father looked? Exactly like Rocky Carson, but without hair. And the other event I would like you to have been to is the 2004 first Beach Bash that was here. And this was the brainchild of a real good friend of mine, where I said, Scott, why don't we try to go to those one-wall courts and have a one-wall event? And Scott said, well, why don't we try to come up with something and invite all the different racket specialties to come together. Racquetball, one-wall paddleball, and the paddle tennis. And from there, with the help of Wally, who was open-minded enough, because before then, it was only paddle tennis on these courts, he eased us in to come here and to play, which has started us, started and made the event what it is today, which is incredible. Now, I want to say one thing, and this is to the older tennis generation. I've heard some rumors and a petition about the color changing of these walls, of the front of these walls. Let me tell all of you, with respect, we are visitors, invites, and guests to these courts. And we do not have any kind of, like, even if our popularity of playing racquetball is more than the tennis, the paddle tennis, they are the ones that should dictate the color of the court. And if they don't want the color change, we should be happy that they allow us to come and play on these hollow courts. Just my little commentary. My little commentary. I want to acknowledge just a few people in my career that were very, very important to me into my development. And let me just say this, as far as indoor went, you know, my mother taught me how to play the game, tutored me the whole way till I got to a certain level and then let me play. But in outdoor, and this goes for all of us in outdoor, outdoor is a self-created game. We all learned it ourselves. Came out, trial and error, how to play outdoor racquetball. But one person I want to start with is Charlie Brumfield. In my opinion, is the first all-time greatest player who really set an example of what a champion should be and what a champion should do. And he was the one that really sort of was the individual who inspired me to come out because he had won indoor and he had won the outdoor. And I felt if I was ever going to be as great as him, that I had to at least come out and do what he's accomplished. And I've been very lucky to have such an incredible champion to look up to, that's the guy I wanted to be or exceed. The second guy is a guy that very few of you may have heard of, but you don't know, his name is Big Rod Phelps. He's a guy who plays in Waikiki, who over 30 years ago, I saw this guy playing outdoor one wall on Waikiki Beach at Fort DeRussy. And ever since then, I stopped by, met this guy. He's been a lifelong friend since that. I played in many competitions, and I would highly advise any of you, if you ever go to Hawaii, you have to go to the court to outdoor. And lastly, Wally Schmidt. We don't realize how important that guy has been to these courts. How important he has been. How he was one of those contributors, those silent contributors, of keeping these courts alive for us today. If it wasn't for Wally Schmidt, that would be the courts right now. We would be a parking lot. So Wally Schmidt, we should always, he's an older gentleman and stuff, we should always say a prayer when we come to these courts that God take care of Wally Schmidt, because he has blessed us incredibly. Incredibly. And I got a couple things in closing. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting on the bench over there with Richie Miller, and we were watching these four older guys, older than me, gray hair, I'm always everybody always begins, I should change my name instead of Marty to old, because I'm old now, right? But we saw four older guys playing paddle tennis. And I mean, after every other rally, it was like he was in the way. Get out of the way. Arguing, playing. And I said to Richie Miller, Richie, isn't that incredible that these old guys come out to these courts and still find the exercise, the enthusiasm, and everything to play? And Richie Miller said something that I want you all to remember, and it's very, very true. Richie said, you know what, Marty? He goes, if you continue to play sports, and especially racquetball and paddleball, it makes you feel 10, 15, 20 years younger. And it truly does. It truly does. It's just a great sport, and we should all be extremely, extremely active throughout. And let me just say this one thing, and Vic sort of brought it up in closing, totally closing. You know, nobody ever owes Marty Hogan anything for racquetball. I owe racquetball my whole life and everything that it's done for me. I've been the most blessed and most beneficial person as far as name notoriety when our indoor sport exploded and everybody wanted to play racquetball. But when I got the call from Brett that I was unanimously offered to be inducted in the Outdoor Hall of Fame, first I was humbled and I was sort of shocked, but I said, I just have one request. And as you all may know, the Outdoor Association and whatever has their nationals in Huntington Beach in California, and that's where they like to induct, do their induction ceremony. But I said, listen, Brett, I said, I've been coming down to Florida playing in outdoor events for over 16 years, and I've seen small events with six teams, grow to 8 teams, grow to 20, 30, grow from hardly any war members to now thousands of war members. And Vic Lebowski has a whole lot, let me just tell you something about Vic. Let me just tell you about what Vic sort of represents, okay? And we all know, and we all have our Vic situation. But Vic represents the very best. And when I say represents the very best, he cares enough to make events happen. He cares enough that after working in his life and tournament directors all over, that they put in the time and the effort to schlep all the water and the hospitality and the cards and make sure the banners are up and the scorecards are up. And after all they do, all the work they do, they still get yelled at 100 times every weekend. Down to 100, I'm happy. And 100 is conservative for Vic. But God bless people like Vic and what Vic represents in supporting our sport. But the one request I had to Brett, the Hall of Fame committee, is if I'm going to go into the Hall of Fame, I want to go into the Hall of Fame in front of my people. The people who have really have a true love, passion for outdoor, and quite frankly, this is to me is my home. So thank you very much.